that we were ever taught about kind of preventing and how to make our feet stronger so they can kind of cope with the demands of.
We were taught the muscles are too small to strengthen. We went deep on the anatomy. We learned all these muscles, but we didn't then think, why aren't we making them stronger? If someone has a sore knee, then we make the muscles around the knee stronger. Or, you rehabilitate a muscle injury, or you rehabilitate a tendon injury anywhere else in the body. But we were definitely taught that that's not the case. There's a lot of these things that mainstream podiatry has now changed. They're now seeing the foot in different ways, but there are still some podiatrists that are probably just still stuck in their ways because they've never questioned it. They're not doing their continued education. Like, I remember saying this, which shocks me a little. Let's use this orthotic. It will stop you getting arthritis. It will prevent injury. We would use something to stop the movement. The whole health profession has come around knowing that movement and load is king, and that really does help the body adapt and promote healthy tissue if we load it and move it. We definitely learned that we couldn't strengthen feet, and we know that we can strengthen feet now, so this is a big deal.
Welcome to the Restore to Explore podcast from your soulmates at the Foot Collective. We're on a mission to empower humans to restore their natural health and function from the ground up, so we can all explore movement and life with freedom and confidence. This week's episode is brought to you by the TFC Soulmate, your ultimate all-in-one restoration and exploration tool. Made from cork, TFC Soulmates are an eco-friendly, lightweight and durable mobility, balance and foot training tool that can be used as a massage roller, foot roller, balance beam, a slant board, and even includes 2 toe resistance bands. Every TFC Soulmate comes with access to an in-depth training manual with guided routines from TFC health professionals to make improving foot function and balance fun and accessible for all ages and abilities. For 10% off your Soulmate, head to thefootcollective.com and use the code R2E. That's R, the number 2, E at checkout. You'll find the details in the show notes.
Andy and Rina here, and we are going to be doing a series on, as podiatrists, on different conditions and talking to other podiatrists. And we just thought we'd kick it off today with this idea of what we learnt back at podiatry school, which is about over 20 years for both of us, 20 years ago, back at podiatry school, and then whether we agree with it today or how we see those things that we learnt, how we see them today. So I think that will make for an interesting discussion to see how podiatry has changed in 20 to 25 years, or how we see it has changed, because maybe some other podiatrists might not have changed. So hi Rina, thanks for joining me again.
Hi, Andy. Nice to see you again.
So do you want to kick? It is. Do you want to kick off by telling us what you learnt at uni that you sort of think, maybe it's a bit different now? And I reckon this is probably with any profession. You look back 25 years ago, wow, we're doing things so differently. Well, you'd hope so.
Yeah.
So we'll just bounce off each other and see how we go with some different ideas. I've got some ideas written down here. So if you don't cover them, I'll bring them up.
Yeah. Hi. So, my profession and career has evolved a lot, and I'm so actually thankful that it has evolved, because at one point when I was still a traditional podiatrist, I was getting really frustrated and everything was getting really predictable. And I feel like that's kind of what we were taught in podiatry school, which, at the time, I guess it worked, but as the years went by, nothing really resonated with me. So, hence the frustration and stuff like that. So what I was trying to think of what we were taught when we set up this meeting, really trying to think. And obviously a few things that spring to mind, which I'm sure is in your case and many podiatrists that have a similar kind of mentality or mindset to us, is that what we were taught about kind of injuries was that a lot of injuries or kind of pathologies are related to your genetics, especially when it comes to kind of bunion deformity, which is obviously a very common thing we see. Any toe deformity, bunion deformity was always genetics, and we were encouraged to ask our patients about if their parents had it or whatever, and that was kind of the reason. And then we knew exactly what to do, which was often to prescribe something for that deformity. And obviously the other thing was that most biomechanical issues, most injuries are biomechanical issues. And one of the, we were taught to do biomechanical assessment and, fancy video gate analysis and all this stuff. And we were always looking for that excessive pronation or pronation in general, which was, the bad thing. Pronation is bad. And therefore, again, very predictable. What do we do with that? Every person pronates, I hope. So every patient we got, pronated, and that was our reason for their injury or pathology, whatever. So here we go, another corrective orthotic for that person, which is obviously very different to how we think today. And then the other massive one is, which I'm sure, again, this, is that feet are inherently weak. They don't evolve properly, and therefore they need support. And then obviously the massive emphasis on never to go barefoot, especially on the beach, which is a bad thing for you guys. Because, going barefoot causes injury, and walking on sand causes plantar fasciitis and things like that, which is really things that obviously I believed for many years and practiced that way. And now it's quite the opposite. I'm sure you agree.
It's so reductive. It's such a reductive way to think, isn't it? Like, don't do that because you'll get this injury, rather than saying, hey, why don't we make our foot strong enough so you can do that. The other one was walking on ladders. Oh, you must have did you walk on a ladder? Have you been on a ladder recently? Like, if there's not something more natural than actually putting your foot on something that's uneven, that gives you some deep pressure, like, why would that trigger plantar fasciitis, apart from the fact that our feet don't get that deep pressure on a regular basis? So it was a very reductionist way of thinking. On this idea of pronation and this foot structure and genetics, like that touches on one of the points I have, that we were taught these normal values, that there was like a normal foot, and that anything that varied from that normal foot was more likely to get injuries. And so now there's no such thing as normal. It's like some people have a big nose and some people have a little nose, but we can all breathe through our noses, or most of us can, and we can all smell. That we can. Our ears are different shape, our feet are different shape and move in different ways. It doesn't mean they're more likely to get injured because they're different shape. This idea of a normal, and that we have to bring it back to the normal, and anything that's not normal is an issue. And that was probably just a lack of research or understanding, I think. And I should also say, I don't want to I love that I'm a podiatrist and that we have this training behind us that gives us great anatomical knowledge. We should also talk about the good things, this anatomical knowledge and a framework for biomechanics. But we've just changed the way we use that framework now, I think. So I'm really glad for my education and for my years of experience as a normal podiatrist. But I think it's healthy to be constantly questioning what you were taught and then what you're practicing. And that can lead to where we are at now. And hopefully it continues to evolve and change.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And, the whole point about, normal feet, we were always so concerned about having the foot in neutral, which means that the foot doesn't actually move in any other way, just sits in one position. And we know with every other body part, we don't want any body part that just stays in one position. We want it to move in all directions, be able to change, obviously, shape and, activate different muscles and stuff. But that, didn't work with feet. But as you said, I am also glad for my education. And we did obviously learn a lot. But I think it's really important that every profession, evolves and doesn't stay where it is and is open-minded to things. And, it's really important to always look to do things that work with our body rather than kind of against, which is what I guess I kind of felt like, was happening when I was doing things slightly differently, which I think deep down I knew, and, that there's something more to this. And I think through my own actually foot health problems that I couldn't resolve at the time, that led me to kind of finding out more about kind of what is foot health, real foot health. That led me to, I guess, also transition to a different way of doing things to my career. So, yeah.
If we're looking at what foot health meant then and what foot health means now to us, I think.
Yeah.
And I think there's still a lot of podiatrists that do this and other health professionals. It's all based on pain, and pain is the measure of success. You might use your visual analog scale of pain to say that someone's 7 out of 10 and they're
Hmm.
progressing well if they're 2 out of 10. Now, I don't really mind what that number is. I don't even ask for that number. I want to know how well they're functioning, because if they're still 7 out of 10, but they can now go for a walk and like walk further or function better, then we're improving. And so
Hmm.
I think in the past we were really focused on pain. I know that's still the case because I still see people put into a big shoe, a big like Hoka-like shoe, because we know that that shoe is going to take away a lot of movement in the foot. And when you take the movement away, then you're probably going to stop it hurting in the short term, at least. Um, so
Yeah.
I can see that still happening, and that's why we would have used orthotics as well, to stop the foot moving or change the way the foot's moving, in a way to stop it hurting. But now I think it's far, like I know I practice with a far bigger focus on function. And, you know, that speaks also of that, you know, don't walk on the sand because you'll get plantar fasciitis. Well, wouldn't you prefer to prepare your clients to be able to walk on the sand rather than tell them not to? And you were going to, I think, say
Yeah.
something about about how it's not enough to be out of pain, is it? It's more about how well you
No,
function. Yeah.
of
Yeah.
course. Yeah. One of the biggest things I feel like I've learned from doing things the way we do now, so more natural. Obviously, now the way we work is more like preventative care.
Yeah.
It's not symptomatic kind of care. It's just looking after the symptoms, but preventing. But one of the major things for me is movement variability, like creating more options within your body and feet, obviously, to be able to not just walk to the shops, but run, move, do yoga, do whatever activities, sports, jump, hop, whatever kind of activities that you want to do. So having that movement variability to me is much more important than, let's just treat the pain. And that's where this kind of restoring natural function comes in. So obviously this is one thing that lacked in our kind of syllabus, I guess, back in school, that I don't think really, I don't know if this is the case for you, that we were ever taught about kind of preventing and how to make our feet stronger so they can kind of cope with the demands of walking.
Yeah.
Obviously, the
We
emphasis was that more like that feet are weak, therefore, we need to do stuff, add things to our shoes to make them even be able to walk like, 5 to 7 steps per day or something. Because even just walking was kind of told like it's too much on our feet. I don't know, like they can't cope with the load and they can't produce enough force. Therefore, they need some kind of help because,
yeah.
they didn't evolve properly.
We
Did
were
you get that?
definitely,
Did you have that kind
to some extent, the preventative was you. Like I remember saying this, which shocks me a little. Let's use this orthotic. It will stop you getting arthritis. It will prevent injury. We would use something to stop the movement. But I guess the whole health profession has come around to knowing that movement and load is king, and that really does help the body adapt and promote healthy tissue if we load it and move it. And definitely in
of?
podiatry school, it was more about supporting it so that it wouldn't get problems down the track. And so that's fully switched over. And then
Yeah.
the other point that you brought up there is this idea of restoring. And I like what the Foot Collective say. They have a program called Restore to Explore. So you're
Mhm.
doing something preventatively for your feet, like to get them back into the shape they should be so you can explore life. So you don't have to think, oh, I better not do that because my feet might not be up for it. Like your feet shouldn't be the reason you don't do something. And they should be, along for the ride. If you want to go and play pickleball, you can because your feet can cope with it. If you want to go rock climbing, you can because your feet can cope with it. And so I think that's more of a holistic way of looking at it rather than a reductionist way of saying, oh, don't do this or be careful or all this type of thing. So that speaks to that preventative nature that you're talking of, I think.
Yeah.
The other point I have, 2 more points I have here. One is that they're a product of their environment. The feet are a product of their environment. We always knew that, but in the past, if the environment is the shoe, the shoe of the past, what we were told should be good, and I think this is still current learning, is a shoe that has a firm heel counter that's stiff from the heel to the forefoot and only bends in the forefoot, that is fixed so it holds onto your foot, which is fair enough. I still agree with that. But otherwise it's stiff. It's got some cushioning to cushion the blow of landing, because your foot can't do that, God forbid.
Mm-hmm.
So I think now we see that that our feet are the product of their environment, but if we expose them to a shoe that is still fixed, so it has to be on, but that you can feel the ground through, so it gets your whole body gets some response to either texture or deep pressure, that it is flexible, so your joints are moving, because when we move a joint, the muscles across it can adapt to that load. That is flat in the most, because we're not designed to stand on a heel all the time, and nearly all shoes are heeled. I think that's kind of covers it in terms of, the most important, and this is the most important one, is that it's foot shaped, because all the there wasn't really a mention in our traditional learning of a shoe letting our feet be wide enough at the tips of the toes. We obviously talked about wide shoes for wide feet, but it was always about the base of the toes and nothing to do with the tips of the toes. And I think that's not because of a lack of understanding. Well, it probably is a little bit of lack of understanding, but it's how strong the cultural significance of having a pointy shoe is. That's what it comes down to. They don't even question the shape of the shoe. No. And that's still happening to this day. Yeah.
We had no training on what is not normal. I don't even want to say normal, natural foot shape. Like what should the shape of the foot look like? And you can just say, first of all, let's see how we come out of the womb, like with a baby's foot. And surely we want it to stay in that kind of, like that shape. Obviously function changes to you when you're a baby, but the shape of the foot, or obviously when we look at the unshoe population, in various countries where they don't use many shoes like ours in the Western world, their foot shape is different. So we were never taught about foot shape, and therefore we were never taught about, the shape of the shoe, foot shaped shoes. The main emphasis on shoes was to support, to keep that foot in that neutral position, basically, isn't it? Especially when it comes to trainers, running trainers, it's like stability, motion control, obviously cushioning if you were the opposite, kind of, like more of a high rigid foot or whatever. And they were all, they all are trying to kind of, they have the main goal is to support and correct the foot. And, obviously very different to how we view things now, because now to me foot shape is more important than arch shape, really, isn't it? Because definitely, the arch should move and change, and before was like, oh, your arch is not here, it should be here, therefore, so now everything is different, and obviously everything is with movement and function in mind. Like, can the foot perform all its tasks? It has many tasks, and it should be able to perform all those tasks. And even if you see that the foot is doing one thing, so say is pronating, you can teach it to do the opposite with the right program and the right kind of environment, as you say, footwear, and with the right kind of mindset. And it's completely more holistic, I think, than what we were taught in the past.
We wanted to take a quick break from the episode to let you know about our ultimate free foot health resource. If you're listening, you've probably already started the journey towards improving your foot and movement health, but if you're still wearing conventional shoes most of the time, that's anything cushioned, heeled, narrow or rigid, it's kind of like taking one step forward and 2 steps back. Knowing what shoe is right for you, though, can be super confusing. That's why we made the Guide to Foot Freedom. We've taken everything our team of foot health experts have learned over the years and synthesised it into one handy manual, packed with all you need to know about unleashing the natural power of your foundation. You'll learn how to understand your feet, the truth about modern footwear, the 5 F's for finding natural footwear, plus a step-by-step guide with training videos to help you assess your foot function and improve it, so you can safely and seamlessly transition into shoes that will finally give your feet freedom. The best part is, like I said, it's absolutely free. Just head to thefootcollective.com and click Learn to find the free ebook, The Guide to Foot Freedom. You'll find the link in the show notes. Now back to the episode.
And that brings me also to that we were taught that the muscles are too small, and you touched on this before. The muscles are too small to strengthen. We went deep on the anatomy. We learned all these muscles, but we didn't then think, oh, why aren't we making them stronger? Like if someone has a sore knee, then we make the muscles around the knee stronger. Or, you rehabilitate a muscle injury, or you rehabilitate a tendon injury anywhere else in the body. But we were definitely taught that that's not the case. And I think that's changed. Like there's a lot of these things that mainstream podiatry has now changed. They're now seeing the foot in different ways. But there are still some podiatrists that would have been trained around the same time as us that are probably just still stuck in their ways because they've never questioned it, and they're not doing their continued education. They're still talking the same way about pronation or flat feet. I mean, I see that every day, people coming in saying, I've got flat feet. I find out they found it out that they heard that from their podiatrist or their physio and this is such antiquated and negative speak. So we definitely learnt that we couldn't strengthen feet, and we know that we can strengthen feet now. So this is a big deal. That made me think of something else. We didn't know the importance of all the other factors in your life. If someone had heel pain, it was because they'd done something to their heel. But now we understand that there's so many other factors. It could be because they're sleep deprived, or they've been eating a highly inflammatory diet, or they're not moving like you spoke of in many invariable ways, or there's other stress in their life. Like some pain shows up in strange ways and in different ways. And so to have some understanding of that, and I think that's all health professionals would now understand that a bit more fully than we did 20 to 25 years ago. Yeah.
Well, obviously our feet are... Oh, sorry.
No, go on. You go.
Carry on.
No, you go.
I was just saying our feet are obviously connected to the rest of our body. And so whatever's going on even up here, can manifest further down. If you have high inflammation because of stress and sleep deprived, or got a stressful job, you are naturally your body's gonna be inflamed. And if you are trying to work with kind of something specific, like to overcome some kind of injury or what have you, it is probably going to take you a little bit longer to recover, because it's not just that the foot is the issue. And, we have to look at the person as a whole person, and whatever else is going on in their lives, not just feet. Because, I think we just have to, we know that the body, it's a self-healing, self-organized, self-healing system. And the same goes for feet. And we know that a lot of our movements are long chain complex movements, which require equal contribution from other joints as well. So your hip health is just as important to your feet, and potentially even your shoulders, and your mobility further up to your thoracic is actually just as important to your feet, because if they're stuck and stiff, your hips are having to do more, your feet potentially as well. So it's not just a foot issue. It's actually feet are how to describe it, a system within a much larger system. So
for sure.
I think just even knowing that, even if we don't know a lot about nutrition, you think as healthcare professionals we should know quite a bit about all of these, even if we're not specialists. Like, we're not going to give maybe dietary advice and we're going to refer, but I think we should know about all the things that contribute to health, and be able to have at least a chat with our clients about these things. And also, it's more just to bring awareness to the client that, yes, you are going through this foot issue or injury, but, it could also be other things that are contributing. So therefore, it could potentially take longer. I think it's really important to have that discussion.
Yeah, it's about that awareness. I like that word, to bring some awareness to them so that they're not just focused on what's going on at the foot. They have to be looking at their whole body health. The foot is sometimes just like a little red light saying, hey, things aren't going so well. So that brings us to our final point, the look of feet. And so I don't think the look was, the actual, like when you're looking at someone's feet, do you know that they're healthy? Um, it's a bit of a weird one because maybe you don't by the look of them, but a healthy foot, now I can look at a foot and think, wow, this is a healthy, I can feel a foot as well. Like I can understand how the foot feels in my hands as to how healthy it is. Like if there's muscle bulk, I'm just going to go through some things that I think a healthy foot. If there's muscle bulk, so when I move this foot, it's got mobility, but it's strong mobility, not just like a bag of bones. I still deal with a lot of elderly people that have been in shoes their whole life, like 80 years in shoes. And a lot of their feet are either super stiff with no muscular definition or really floppy with no muscular definition. There's just no meat on the bone, So I think a healthy foot for me these days is one that you can sort of tell that it's well muscled. It tends to have a straighter big toe. If the big toe's sideways, in a bunion shape, but not even a bunion. Like most of the population have their big toe pressed tightly against their second toe, not straight out. When I see that, I think there's a red flag for how healthy this foot is. And I don't think we talked about those things at all when we were in school. I think it was more about that idea of this perfectly moving foot, this altruistic idea that there's a perfect foot function in the way that it moves. But when I think now of how a healthy foot looks, it's got veins, you can see that there's good blood supply, it's got some hair, healthy nail growth, all those types of things. What do you think of as a healthy looking foot these days?
I think definitely all the things that you mentioned. You can kind of see when somebody comes with kind of fairly strong feet that their feet are just a bit bulkier. Yeah. They're just in a good way, not kind of swelling. But their feet, and they have good awareness. You're like, can you spread and lift your toes? They can do that. They can kind of reach certain positions. They can go through their full range. And the big toe, massive. I think all the toes, because obviously I think so little emphasis from everyone on toes. Our toes are so important. As we know, the big toe provides most of our arch stability, but it needs to be straight and it needs to engage to be able to give you that support. It's like one of the main pillars. And then all our little toes, again, if they're crushed, not great, because for balance, proprioception, for having the ability to activate those little muscles in your feet, if your toes are like this, that's not going to happen, as we know. So just having that ability to spread the toes, have a straight toe, engage them downwards, flexion, is really important. And I think for me, especially important, and I'm sure for you, is that sensory side of things. Like some people who have hypersensitive feet, not a good sign. Like you haven't exposed your feet to anything other than soft and kind of, soft and I guess I don't want to even say comfortable. What's the word? Soft and squishy and something that you think it's good or comfortable. So you haven't exposed your feet to any other texture or terrain to build up that resilience or capacity to be able to walk on uneven surfaces and obviously be able to even be barefoot, walk barefoot, and in barefoot shoes. I find, and I don't know if this is the case, that when it comes to transitioning to barefoot shoes, the main issue, they often like the space and the flexibility. Most people don't complain about that. What they complain about is they can feel the ground. It's too hard. It's too much. And our feet are meant to be on the ground, in contact with the ground all the time, like apart from obviously when you're sleeping. So if your feet have been so kind of cradled with materials, it's completely created this hypersensitivity, but also in a way also numbing your sensory receptors. Yeah. So you can't tune into your receptors, and also they're so hypersensitive that you don't want to even, it feels too wrong to actually even have bare skin or bare anything that's natural. I think that speaks, I think, volumes. When I get a patient like that, I'm not, okay, you haven't experienced, your feet haven't experienced what they should. And therefore, that's kind of the first sign that they have weak feet. What do you think?
Yeah, and
You think so?
definitely. Like, I'm really glad you talked about that. And we definitely didn't talk about that at uni. If anything, it was okay for feet to be like that, and
Yeah.
you'd almost promote it because you wanted your foot supported all the time.
And
And not
comfortable. They have this
and
thing about
comfortable.
comfortable.
Yeah.
What is
Like, our feet are designed to take deep pressure. You know, they're meant to be able to jump from log to log or rock to rock and cope with that deep pressure. And so, yeah, when you see a foot that can't cope with that, you know that it's not a healthy foot. In the past, we wouldn't have even thought about it. It would just be like, oh, that person's got sensitive feet, you know. But they've only got sensitive feet because they desensitize them so much by wearing cushioning and stiffness.
Yeah,
Like, I really
absolutely.
don't want people listening to this to think we're not happy about our education, because we're really grateful for it. And I know we touched on this before. We're just like pointing out, the point of this was to see that our profession has changed, and we have changed. We've changed. We both think for the better within our profession, and how important it is to know that it's going to continue to change. We're going to keep seeing different things come on board. Although on that, we have gone back to the way feet. We're thinking about the way feet were designed or evolved to function, and so I'm not sure that's ever going to change. That feet are designed to work like this. You know, if anything, we're going to move more in that direction and have even less on our feet. So for me, I'm really grateful for my profession, but I thought this would be interesting to think about what we learned 25 years ago, and how we practice now so differently. And yeah. What have you got
I
anything
think
final to say,
we
Rina?
have the I think we have the best of both worlds, because we've done the traditional way. Yeah, we have all that knowledge, and no one can say to us, "Oh, but you don't know that," because So now we do things very differently. It's more about prevention and restoring movement and functionality and things like that. But the good thing is that we've been in that world, we know it, and now we are in this world, and no one can tell me, oh, you don't know any better about what traditional podiatry has to offer or what have you. So I think I'm very happy that we have that knowledge, because if we didn't, then it's like, what do I not know, about how other podiatrists work. And I think we have that really good understanding of traditional podiatrists, and I can appreciate that, because that's got me to this stage. But this is, for me, it's much more in tune with how we have evolved as a human, not just how our feet evolved, but just complete as humans. And obviously the environment we put our feet in, we know most of the things that I see in clinic, and I'm sure it's the case with you, is that are preventative, and mostly are caused by shoes that are not allowing the foot to function as a foot. They're not foot shaped, therefore creating all these issues. So I think it's really important to know that obviously we want the protection from the shoe, but it shouldn't interfere with our movement and our function. And so I'm really I am glad we've I have that side of me. And also, when I see a client comes to see me and they have orthotics, I can say, I've been that podiatrist, I gave a lot of orthotics, I know how that works, and I know where this is going for you, but there is also this option if you're willing to do some work, put a bit of work, because at the end of the day, we're only guiding them. We're not treating. We could call it treating, but at the end of the day, it's them doing the job, isn't it? You're giving them instructions and encouraging them and being positive. That's the other thing, is that when I see a client and I do an assessment, the first thing I'm going to say about their feet is what's good about their feet. I'm like, look at your big toe, straight. That's amazing. Or look at your, something. I don't know. I would never go, oh, you've got this, which is what I used to do. And I trained like that. I know lots of people still do that. And it's just more positive. It's like, it's good. You can get there. Just put in some work, change the environment, work on your movement variability, the whole body, movement snacks. and you'll see amazing improvements in,
Yeah.
time, because it's a journey, of course.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
that's a really good point. The positivity about the way we practice now compared to that negative mindset we had before. So
Yeah.
we should wrap that up. That's been really insightful for me and hopefully for our listeners as well. And we're going to have these chats pretty regularly. We're going to talk podiatry stuff in depth, like foot stuff in depth. So if there are other health professionals or people that are like wanting to nerd out on feet stuff in the setting, or want to challenge us on stuff and they're listening to this, then we'd love to have some people on board and have a chat to them. Just short, sharp chats that gives us an opportunity to share our knowledge and to learn from other people, and they can learn from us. But I hope you've enjoyed this, and thanks for coming along again, Rina.
Thank you.
Thanks for tuning in to the Restore to Explore podcast. If you enjoyed the episode, we'd really appreciate you leaving a review wherever you're listening. That's the best way to support us and to help us reach more people. If you're after more free TFC education or training, looking for any of our TFC tools, natural footwear discounts, or you want specialized guidance on your foot health journey from a trusted TFC health professional, head to thefootcollective.com. All of the important links are in the show notes of the episode.